Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Today, I wanted to talk, pardon me. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject peripheral to the subject of watch collecting, and that's everyday carry. Because a lot of watch people are into gadgets and things. And obviously, that's also a part of everyday carry. I mean, if you think about it, telephone was not everyday carry back in the 50s. It's everyday carry today for just about everyone. In fact, that's why I'm wearing my Google Glass. The one of the few products that failed because other people didn't like it. This was supposed to be everyday carry, supposed to be part of your daily wear into the world, as it were. And actually, it's quite a useful functional device. It's essentially like having a smartwatch in front of your face. But um, I think that there were a lot of factors, and a lot of them were societal, because I do believe that envy had a significant part to do with it, because a lot of people saw these um, enabled people, as it were, and they realized that it was something that they didn't have, and it was a disadvantage, and so they attacked the people who had them. Um, the big argument was privacy, but I would be standing on a street corner underneath a camera, and the person is talking to me about privacy, and I'm like, I don't think that that's the argument that you want to make. But that's a different issue entirely. I just wanted to talk about everyday carry and how a lot of everyday carry is related to electronic gadgets like phones and watches and now rings. I'm gonna put on a. I'm gonna get myself a probably a Samsung Smart Ring when they come out. Give it a test run, because then when people go, well, I have a smartwatch, I can go, well, I got the smart ring, does everything, and I can continue to wear the watch I love to wear, or one of the watches I love to wear. Wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Breitling Navitimer GMT. I managed to. I don't know if you heard earlier, but in the earlier episodes I mentioned it. But I managed to get my hands on the factory rubber, which is says Breitling on it. But it's just such a striking, beautiful, classic piece. It's totally worth having in your collection. And I would consider it if I were you, unless you don't like busy watches, because it's a very, very busy watch. Watches are also an EDC. Jewelry, if you think about it in that sense, is an EDC because it's an everyday carry. And I'm thinking of things that we carry personally on our bodies. I mean, obviously clothing, right? But um, some people turn their clothing into an EDC through fashion or purpose or both. you know? And then I was thinking, I just did a video on this little book. It's a little short video, but basically, I'll give you the gist of it. This is a booklet that a steel company gave to their field engineers. It's almost 1,000 pages long. In fact, I think it is 1,000 pages long. It is almost 1,943 pages. Useful information for engineers and salespeople and the like. And it literally has everything from full standard weight for galvanized pipe. Well, I guess it's washed out by the lighting, but there's a copy of the Constitution in here. There's a copy of the Declaration of Independence in here. There's a copy of, I mean, they have all kinds of interesting documents, a complete list of all of the houses of government, explanation of, maybe that'll show up, explanation of maritime flag signals, right? So if you ever wondered what people did before the internet existed, they carried something like this around, or Farmer's Almanac, or Encyclopedia Britannica. That's why people had all that stuff on their bookshelves, because if you didn't have it at hand, you had no access to that information unless you went to a library, you know? Um, but everyday carry changes as times change, as I was saying. Phones didn't used to be everyday carry. Now, glasses our everyday carry. Some people would say, well, hey, they're necessary. But in my case, for example, I have a black set frame, but the black set frame is also got these are both progressive lenses. Um, but this one is more dialed in for internal, buildings and inside of rooms and computer distances. This can as well, but the spectrum of distance on these glasses are different. This one doesn't have long distance. This one does, and also gives me a little bit of a fashion choice. But glasses, when we think about everyday carry, we think of things like knives and toolkits and the like. But I mean, everything that we put on our bodies that is not directly to protect us from the elements could be considered, EDC tool, because they're all tools. Everything's shoes are tools, you know. Um, we think of it like that, and then when it comes to things like when everyday carry, I don't think maybe I would say only the most extreme everyday carry people are tooling up like Batman and putting a bunch of stuff into all of these pockets in their belt. We all have a spectrum of things that we carry depending on what we foresee is going to happen to us during the day. Some I often carry a knife. Sometimes I have a strap-on knife that I wear, very short, but it's a beautiful piece. It's a Damascus blade. I love Damascus. I think it's an awesome material. And little thing like this is perfect for opening boxes, letters, cans if I need to, and it just goes right on the belt. Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I still want to have that functionality, so but I don't want to wear something to my waist, so I'll throw this in my pocket. This has got a corkscrew and a bottle opener on it, right? But I'm not going to carry both. I'll carry one or the other, or maybe I'll carry my Leatherman. I've got a standard Leatherman. Now, I do keep a mini Leatherman constantly on my keychain. So in one sense, you could say that's one of the true pieces of everyday carry I have. And I have pin tool, a pin tool, which is actually for SIM cards, but it also works for watch things like hidden pushers and through hole lugs and other things that you would need a watch pin tool for. I wanted to buy a keychain watch tool. There was one online, and I bought it, and I was very disappointed with it. And I think I even threw it away. I didn't even try to get a refund. It was just so disappointing. Not happy with it, and I won't even blame the company. I just maybe it was a bad fit. But we all carry different things. Like I have two pens that I carry off 10, but I change them out. Like when I'm wearing a suit, I carry the Mont Blanc, and when I'm just knocking around, I carry the Cross. But sometimes I'll also there's some sirens. I hope it's not too noisy. Um, Sometimes I'll wear the Cross with a suit, because the nice thing about the Cross is it crosses over. This is the EDA pen, EDC pen, the everyday carry pen. This is the daily wear, the go anywhere, do anything, and this is actually in that same category. It's just as rugged and just as fun, but in one sense, it's a bulkier pen. It's a bulkier pen, and in another sense, um, I could buy 5 of these for what this costs, so I'll risk this in the field. So you can almost say that this is my dress beater and this is my dress. But I mean, my fountain, I never take it out of the house. I literally just use it for my to-do list because I'm so terrified of anything happening to it in the field, and using it for my to-do lists keeps me using it all the time. But when you think about tools, sometimes I'll take the Leatherman, but I mean, sometimes I'll strap this one on. This one. I've used this in episodes. It's got that little hatchet on the end, and it's got a hatchet and a hammer. So when my upstairs neighbor, who's a retired old man, well, I'm an old man too, but I'm not retired yet, and he's retired. And sometimes I go up and I fix things for him or hang stuff on his walls, and I don't need a full blown, ball peen hammer to do that kind of stuff. And so this is like enough of a multi-tool that then there are times when I'm going out, maybe I'm going for a hike, because Germany's very big on hiking through forests. Well, actually, a lot of Americans do it too. But sometimes I'll strap this on then, because I don't know what I might encounter. Maybe I'll find something that I want to make a cutting from, or clear something, or who knows what, But so I think with EDC, it's not so much that there's a set number of things you carry, but that you have a toolkit of things that you can access depending on what circumstances you think you're going to be involved in, you know? Milad Sky, hey, how's it going, my friend? Glad to have you here as well. Glad to have everyone here. I mean, the whole thing about this show is the community that we're trying to build here is all people talking to each other, because me just talking to the walls gets pretty boring really quick. If it weren't for your input, I would really not have that much to say. You know, like today, I'm just rattling on about everyday carry because I saw it on the Mad Watch Collector. He brought it up as well. And as I've said before, what I like about watch topics is watch everyone. You know, we all have a different perspective on each of the questions and issues. And the only commonality between what we're talking about in his show, for example, was the fact that we all carry phones around. And also, I did decide to come at it from a different angle, specifically to make sure that there was differentiation. So I'm thinking more about the philosophy of everyday carry as opposed to you should have this or you should have that or this is what I carry or whatever. Um, like sometimes I carry this as a little screwdriver set. There are a lot of screwdriver bits inside, and they plug into the end, and you can do stuff because I'm a technical guy, and if you're a technical person, you know all your friends ask you to fix stuff for them. So I developed a small collection of pocketable, you know, jackleg tools that way I can like at least with whatever they may happen to have on hand, fix whatever they need me to fix. You know, but yeah, in the case of the reason I do like the Leatherman when I have a little teeny one on the keychain is I like the ability to have a pair of pliers, or you know, you could think of it as a big set of tweezers at this scale, because there are things that you'd like to do that you like. Wow, I wish I had a pair of pliers, or at least I do. If you're the kind of person who sits there and thinks I really need a pair of pliers, then this is for you. Oh, but then again, a lot of watch people are gadget people, and gadgets are part of it too. You know, watches are jewelry with gadgets in them. So if you like jewelry and you like gadgets, you should like watches. That doesn't mean you'll necessarily like jewelry and or gadgets, but odds are you're going to like at least gadgets. Um, then realizing that I'm a middle aged man, I thought about the things I actually do carry on a daily basis that aren't necessarily what you consider EDC. I carry around a little packet of tissues. A lot of Germans do that. These are and these this company Tempo, they advertise that if you leave it in your pocket, it won't break up in the washing machine, and it doesn't. You know, that's how people buy it because that way, if you forget the tissue in your pocket, you don't wind up with a washing machine nightmare. As anyone who's ever done that with a tissue that comes apart knows what I mean. So I carry a packet of tissues. I also carry a little folding shopping bag because Germany is a place where you know they encourage you to take your own bags, and so this opens up to a huge bag. And I got this. Okay, here we go. Plug for the company. They made it. Agile Analog gave me this bag, so the Agile Analog gets the plug. But what I like about it is the outer case is the bottom of the bag. It's actually a very well constructed, solid shopping bag, and it folds up right into the little pouch, and it fits into the back pocket of my jeans. So if I'm going out, I know on the way home I can stop at the little kiosk on my street and stock up because I have my little folding shopping bag. So if you think about it from that point of view, this is as aggressive an EDC tool as a Leatherman because it performs a critical task, shopping, and it fits easily onto your person. So, you know, it's a different perspective how you look at it. You know, for example, I have this beautiful knife. I love this piece. It's a beautiful piece. It's also Damascus, but it's a little big to carry around in your pocket, even though I deliberately made sure it's not a lock blade, so it's completely legal. I wouldn't carry this around because shades of aggressive. I know there are people who would carry bigger things around, but again, like I said, I live in Germany and they have a different philosophy on those things. I would get away with it a lot easier with this little, hunting. Although this is as dangerous as that is. This is more dangerous because the blade doesn't fold. But I'm not very dangerous with these. The most aggressive thing I'm going to do with them is open a box. But it's nice to have a nice tool. And that's what a lot of EDC people, I mean, you think about some of the EDC things that people carry. I met a guy who had slots in his watch band for pens and tools and stuff. It's part about giving us a feeling of readiness. Some of us use our EDC tools all the time. And some of us, I mean, some of the things I carry around, I rarely, if ever, use, as far as, everyday carry goes. Um, Mostly things like gloves, but sometimes I'll carry, a pen and expect to use it and not use it, or a knife and expect to need it, and everyone seems to have a bottle opener or a can opener or whatever, and nobody needs the assistance or whatever, or I don't need it. So, like I said, I think it's more that we all have a toolbox of things that we can take, and we take various things from them based upon the circumstances that we foresee in our day, and then we do it. And as I was saying, there are some things that everyone carries all the time, like watches and phones, and what Google Glass was hoping to become. And like I said, the biggest problem with it was cost. If this had cost $500, we'd all be wearing them today, or a variation of the sort. There are a lot of companies who have the tech and are hesitant to break into the space because they don't want to get Google Glassed. So I mean, like if you think about it, some of the smart glasses like the Ray-Bans, they don't project images. They just let you take pictures and you can hear music and things along those lines. So the level of invasiveness is lower. There's no sense that that person is getting something that you don't have access to, like information. Because, for example, a solid argument against Google Glass could be, um, I say your name, this looks online, calls up information about you, displays it on the screen, and then I have the advantage. I can pretend I know much more about you than I do because it's literally staring me in the face. I mean, you could say that that's what an aide does to, a principal, an executive, um, to a degree, but unless that aide's got their nose on a phone at that moment in real time, you're still going to have that information. And nowadays with ChatGPT, you could literally ask for information and get prompts like a director in a film on the glasses. So I can understand why some people would feel that this is an unfair tool, which is why I say the best solution is to make it inexpensive enough to democratize it and let everybody get it. Peter, hey, how's it going, my friend? Always nice to see you. What a nice guy. Good morning. Tuning in to say hello. You mentioned that I'm a middle-aged man. I beg to differ. We're only getting started. Boom. We're there. Glad to see you. I'm glad you came in on the show, my friend. So, but when it comes to, what we carry around, that's also highly subjective, right? One man's fish is another man's poisson. Ha ha. Uh, we What some of us carry, others would eschew. Or, for example, I'll often carry a lighter, but I don't make it a regular part of what I carry. When I go to a trade show, I always make sure there's a lighter in my bag because you never know when you need to make fire. Um, usually because someone else is asking you, "Do you have a light?" Because they don't have one, and they want to have the smoke or something. But it's always nice to be the prepared person in the group, as it were. And, for example, when it comes to that kind of thing for, everyday carry, I have a whole bag of tricks I take with me when I go on the road for a trade show because 'cause I've got my camera and I've got my microphones. I don't use this microphone on the road, obviously, it's a studio mic, but I have a nice, stick microphone. I lament the sad departure of my Sony stereo stick microphone condenser was a really great handheld microphone, but it started acting up and I had to replace it. And I have a halfway decent JBL. I'm really thinking of biting the bullet and spending the money and getting another really good handheld mic for in the field. But I'm playing with the idea of using lavalier microphones and just double vest miking the person that I wanted to talk to or have present, and then cut back on the a lot of people don't know what to do with a microphone when it's in their face like that. More people, in I hate to say, the modern world, the young whippersnappers, the people expect to have lapel mics, and for example, you see even in the bloggers, they're all popping up with those clip-on battery lapel mics. So the age of the stick microphone, I think, is fading away because people also want to use their hands. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on EDC in general on everyday carry? Because it's all part and parcel. I mean, if you're a photographer, for example, a camera's part of your everyday carry. But then again, nowadays a camera's part of everybody's everyday carry. But you know what I mean as far as a quote unquote real camera. But then that goes for any tradesperson, right? There are probably engineers who still carry around advanced calculators because it's easier to use the calculator than to call up that application on the smartphone because the touchscreen buttons aren't tactile like the nice ones on your calculator, and you can whenever I type on my phone, I wish BlackBerry had figured out a way, or we I would really like to have a tactile keyboard, but then again, I'm old school tech. I beat the heck out of my current keyboard. I learned how to type initially on a manual in the military, and then we went to IBM Selectrics, which were really nice typewriters. Um, but yeah, I to this day I beat the heck out of a keyboard. But that's how I learned to type. And the current generation, they just know how to handle a touchscreen. They just lightly tap the keys, and they get a good feel for how they. To me, I still have fat finger syndrome on a regular basis. But like I was saying, that we all have placed different values on the different things that we carry around. I often carry a pocket watch. A lot of people don't. Then people say, "Well, why do you carry a pocket watch and a wristwatch?" Usually, the pocket watch has some, you know, parlor trick, as I like to call it. For example, I have a 10-second stopwatch from World War II, and I've got that erotic pocket watch from the 20s, and I've got a repeater. I've got a quarter repeater from 1899, and I've got a German pocket watch that a friend gifted me. So, it's got that nice connection as well. Um, and I've got the 8 day. This has a Breguet movement pocket watch. It was actually very popular in the 1890s. Hebdomas. I've got a Hebdomas pocket watch with which had open balance wheels. That entire series of watches all had open balance wheels, and they're very pretty pieces with an 8 day Breguet movement in them. So they're a really reasonably inexpensive way to get into interesting horology. I would suggest you look into those pieces. But yeah, so I'll carry around a pocket watch as well as just a conversation starter, as opposed to having to actually tell time. I don't even bother to set the time on the pocket watches I carry around because I'm carrying them around for their complications, not because I need to tell the time. Although sometimes I will. Sometimes if I am traveling, I'll set the pocket watch to the second time zone if I'm not wearing a GMT. Everything has a purpose if you use it right. Oh, Malad, what's my favorite means of listening to music, digital or analog? Personally, I prefer listening to vinyl. I have a nice turntable, an old Denon quartz locked turntable, and I sadly gave away most of my records to my nieces and nephews and nibblings. but I do still have a couple hundred records in my current collection, and I do like to listen to vinyl. But I must admit, the laziness gets me, and I just go to YouTube and I type in the name of the song I want to hear, and I listen to the because I do have a fiber optic line from my TV to my analog power amplifier to run. I have a pair of 30 plus year old Infinity reference standards, beautiful speakers. So I still and with the Kimber cable I bought at CES in 1985. Um, and I used to be the Monster Cable sales manager for Germany to the American military in the mid '80s. So all of my interconnect, well, I actually have some Kimber interconnect as well. But I have a hybrid system, digital analog, so I can at least listen to the digital signal from the television YouTube feed through a pair of decent speakers, and I have a powered subwoofer. Actually, you can see the powered subwoofer right there. Um, so, because I used to sell high-end audio equipment. That's what for the first thing did when I got out of the military back in 1983 is I was a Kenwood stereo sales manager for the Kaiserslautern PX region and migrated upward from there. Like I said, at the peak of my audio career, I was the sales manager for Monster Cable for Germany for the military market. But then I switched over because once you have the paperwork to get on the base and to get into the PX, you wind up getting hired by whoever needs a sales manager. And so at the end of my military sales career, I was selling beer, wine, Heineken, Robert Mondavi, Gallo. That's why I've got the Heineken and the USO. The USO plaque on the wall is from Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was the Anheuser-Busch rep throwing all the parties on base for the soldiers on their way down range. And yeah, the funny thing is that I'm very, in a weird way, I'm very proud of that because morale, you keep the morale up of the troops because it helps them fight better. So I don't mind that I was a rear echelon because during my time I spent my time along the East-West German border monitoring the Russians. So I spent my time at the front myself, but nobody shot at me. Which when you start thinking about places that allow weapons carry, that goes into a completely different area of everyday carry that I mean, I can talk about, having been a weapons specialist back in the military times. But here in Germany, you don't really carry any weapons around. You don't even really carry knives. Like, as you see, I'm cautious about that myself. I do have a air pistol. It's a 1911 form, fit, and finish, so it has a slide and the air capsules in the magazine. Well, because at least I want to keep the muscle memory up of using the pistol because you never know when you might need to fire a pistol. But that aspect of everyday carry is I'll leave that to the experts in the personal weapons space because my personal favorite pistol round is the 10 millimeter, and most weapons experts frown on it because it's expensive, hard to get, and big magazines. You need to have big hands to use it, but I have big hands, so I don't mind having a 10 millimeter. Um, personal favorite personal body weapon I would say is the Walther PPK with a 38 short round. That's a really nice pistol. And PPK means persönliche Polizeikanone or something like that. In other words, it was designed to be carried by plainclothes policemen and women. There's not a sharp edge on that weapon. Have you ever seen a picture? James Bond carried among his pistols a Walther PPK. Really great pistol. But let's see what we got here. Malad. Oh yeah, so you're curious to know. Well, we all love music, I think, and I think we all want to listen to it as best as we can. Um, Noah Lee, the founder of Monster Cable, old friend of mine. We don't talk anymore though. Although I did see him a couple of years ago. He came to Germany and we met. But when you asked him, he said the most important piece of equipment in a stereo is the amplifier. And I've come to believe that because yes, speakers are important, and yes, the source is important and all. But if you cannot properly drive the speakers, you're not going to get a good sound. If you have a good amplifier, you can at least drive those crappy speakers well. For example, the primary reason a speaker blows is not because it's been overdriven. It's because the amplifier has been overdriven. Because music is a sine wave, right? Alternating current sine wave. And there's a phenomena called clipping when you overdrive an amplifier. And the reason they call it clipping is if you're looking at it on a oscilloscope, it looks like someone literally just took scissors and cut the tops off of the waveforms, clipping. But what happens is that straight line is basically you've turned the sine wave into a square wave, and that is pure DC current into the speaker. And so what it does is it pushes the voice coil out of the magnet, and while it's hanging there in space, as the energy going through it, there's nowhere for the heat to go, so it partially melts your speaker coil, and that's why a blown speaker makes that scratchy sound when you push the cone, because it's the melted parts of the speaker coil rubbing against the lining of the magnet. And that's because the amplifier was not powerful enough to drive the speakers. Now you can blow speakers and drive them, destroy them by too much power, but that's a different issue. If you're driving speakers very, very loud in, say, a party, and you start hearing it distorting, that's the amplifier giving out. That's not the speakers giving out. If you hear distortion before the speaker destroys itself, unless it's distortion directly related to the speaker physically destroying itself, it's the amplifier not being able to drive the signal powerfully enough. So as I have a nice Yamaha amp, and like I said, I bought a modern one, so it's got a lot of power in it, but it also has a fiber optic input, so I can plug the digital line from the TV in. So at least, yes, it's a digital signal, but it's being reproduced in an analog system and played through some nice vintage speakers. So I like to play the records, and I prefer to play records. But if I've got half an hour to listen to music, I'll just pull up MTV as opposed to leafing through the albums and pulling it out and cleaning it. And and the ritual is also part of audio, but then you want to do the ritual, like the tea ceremony in front of someone. You know what I mean? You want to show someone, "Ooh, look how good I take care of my albums," and you clean them and you put it on the turntable and you show them you're really careful, and you're helping them appreciate the music experience, because a good vinyl system will sound as good, if not better, than a digital, especially if the digital is an MP3, which was deliberately under-engineered as far as digital word and bit length and sampling frequency, because they didn't want it to compete with CD. It was deliberately under-engineered. It doesn't have the same fidelity as CD MP3s. There are other encoding systems that are better than CD, and they're in use by some people. And a lot of the video online streaming application stuff, that's all very high bit rate stuff. So as long as you've got a really good high bit rate digital signal, you're going to be all right. But like a regular old CD against a really good turntable in a well-maintained system, the vinyl's going to sound better. But that CD will sound 80%, actually not even 80, that's a 95% as good. That CD will sound 95% as good at a tenth of the cost, because that turntable system, you're talking $500 to $1,000 for a good turntable. A good amplifier is going to cost you another $500 to $1,000. The speakers a good set of speakers are going to run you about another $1,000 to $1,500 to $250,000. I mean, well, all of those things I mentioned, you can buy turntables that cost $250,000. Or you could buy a $100 turntable, and it will sound dang good. But a CD player will probably sound better than a basic analog audio vinyl system. But that vinyl system, if you maintain it, it will sound as good as that CD, and then you get the ritual. And not only that, analog does have acoustic advantages that if the system is good enough, you can perceive. Because, for example, CD is brick walled at 20,000 hertz, but there's evidence that high frequencies help us with stereo location. So if your speakers go to 40, like Infinity Reference Standards have got the emit ribbon tweeters, they go to 45,000 hertz or something like that. All of that high frequency information that maybe is imperceptible in a lot of ways helps your brain with the targeting, which is one of the reasons maybe that the stereo imaging on a good piece of vinyl sounds so warm and open and airy, you know, things like that. Also, vinyl is theoretically, as an analog medium, infinitely resolvable. Like Stevie Wonder has some laser turntables, and they track the groove with a laser, so they get 100% of the information. And the nice thing about a laser turntable is that you can actually point that laser to a different part of the groove. So, like if that needle has been rubbing the groove here and it's all burnt out here, there's still groove above and below. So the laser can just track higher on the groove and get a clean waveform off of that vinyl. So, whereas that CD will never give you higher resolution because it is literally brick walled due to the 16-bit digital word and the 44,000 sampling frequency and the 20,000 um, hertz acoustic, pardon me, ceiling, right? Whereas that vinyl album, theoretically infinite resolution. The only limit to how much sound you can get out of a vinyl album is how good your equipment is, literally. So, let's see. We've been toddling along for a bit, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about everyday carry. If I noticed that we got something just popped up from Milad. Amazing information. I can deliver different subjects from watches to world politics. I'm not. Well, I'm a lucky guy. I do consider myself lucky because not too many people, have the opportunity to come to Europe, to Germany as a soldier and manage to stay as a civilian and get to see the end of the Cold War from a front row seat. And I mean, I was a traveling salesman during that period of time, the end of the Cold War. I've been to every military base from Bremerhaven to Aviano back when they were open in the 80s. Got to talk. I was very lucky. I talked to Otto Graf von Lambsdorff, the old foreign minister of Germany during the Tide. Asked the old president of the Bundestag, Dr. Susmuth, who's still in power, an embarrassing question at a press conference, because that's the nice thing about gravitating to the journalism space. You get to see a lot of things. And I ran a business magazine out of Berlin in the late 90s. So I got to see a lot of things. My current girlfriend, I met her at a East-West, she's from the East. She's from East Germany. The old East Germany, that's all one Germany now. And we met at an East-West German friendship conference. I was there at the time. I was sales manager for Clifford Car Alarms for Bavaria and Austria. So I was there pushing car alarms, and she actually was selling office supplies. But she went back to school under a German program to help East Germans uh, go back to school. And she actually went and got her doctorate through that program, and now she's an agricultural scientist. And that's how we wound up meeting again, because her university is right up the road from this town, Wiesbaden, so she lives here as well. So we wound up meeting on Facebook and said, "Hey, let's have a cup of coffee." And well, one thing led to another, right? The rest is history, as it were. So I can talk about tech, I can talk about watches, and I can talk a little bit about geopolitics, but don't ask me about sports. There are a lot of things I don't know. But then again, as most people who like to pontificate, I'm very careful to only talk about things that I can back up. So we're about 40 minutes in. It was just a nice, lazy evening. Unless there are any other questions, I think I'll make it a short day today. And because we weren't really talking about watches today, and I think what we'll do is I'll pull together a good topic for next week, watch wise. We talked about micro brands and trends in late in the last episodes. I think there have been some really interesting examples of new micro brands and new special editions from companies and things that support some of my predictions. Uh, Although if they're happening while you're making the predictions, you can almost say they're observations, but I really wasn't. I didn't see these things at the time I was making my predictions. So I do claim at least some foresight that these companies are doing these things with colors and with movements and with watches. It's going to be. I think we're entering a nice phase of watch collecting where it's becoming more about the watch again and less about the brand. Because with the Rolex bubble not popping so much as letting out a lot of air, we're pretty much back. We're pretty much back at pre-COVID market prices, give or take, taking inflation into account or whatever. But I mean, if you cut the COVID period out, the prices today could be tracked from the prices of yesterday. So I think the which is not one of the trends I talked about in the previous episode. So I guess I can pontificate on it here. Um, I do think we are going to see less luxury in collections. People are going to have a few. People may afford quite a few, but the average person who might have spent a year or two saving up the 5K, you know, for that Tudor might buy a Longines or Hamilton. They're putting out some really interesting stuff. Or even Fossil just came out with a line of chronos that actually look interesting, you know? And I mean, they're probably quartz movements, so it's not like you're worried about them breaking on you. I mean, for all intents and purposes, a mainstream quartz movement may be boring, but it's reliable. So a fashion company like Fossil putting out, I think I'm gonna do at least my thoughts on. Maybe I can find one and I'll buy one if I go into Frankfurt. Um, 'cause- because I do believe that we are entering a renaissance of people who want to wear a watch because they're distinctive, especially now that smart rings are coming onto the space and people don't need to wear a smartwatch unless they want the data. If they want the body monitoring and sleep monitoring, all of that, they can now get it from a ring, which means it frees up their wrist for whatever fashion accessory they want. And a lot of people do like watches. So I do think that there is going to be a minor renaissance, especially at the affordable levels. At the Fossil, the Michael Kors, the 150 to $300 watch space. I think we're going to see a lot of really interesting churn. And at the higher price points, the 1,500 to $2,500, I think we're also going to see. But then I did talk about that earlier about I think we're going to see more interesting pieces because the tech to make special short runs has brought the cost of doing that, which used to involve retooling and all kinds of insane gymnastics to change the assembly line to make something different. I was at I mean, this was years ago, not years and years ago, but like less than 5 years ago, I was at Vicor, and they're allowing, you could go on their website and type in, I want 10 of this kind of power supply, which was impossible 20 years ago. And bang, 10 power supplies are going to show up at your door. And they only made those 10. They can change what they're making on the assembly line on the fly. And if they can do that with, you know, incredibly high density board level chip scale power supplies, Yeah, they can do it with pretty much anything nowadays. And so, well, I think I pointed out about Nevada Grinchen. Nevada Grinchen had a special program where you could design your own watch completely, colors, indices, everything. It was limited to a short run of people, but it was more of a publicity stunt. But it was a great stunt because you do have the tech now to make whatever watch I mean, if you have the parts and you have the manufacturing equipment. Like as I was saying in another episode, you can get a lot of precision out of inexpensive factory equipment today, but the ability to be flexible, that costs more money. And so depending on how much money you have is how well you can do that. The fact that Nevada Grunchen was able to make that offer obviously lets you know that they have the technology to change what they're making on the assembly line on the fly, which is one of the strengths of Industry 4.0 technology. I'm already, joke at trade shows that we're like at Industry 4.5 or 5.0, because when we truly integrate artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms into the systems, and I'm not talking about Chat GPT, I'm talking about things that can, precisely control industrial temperatures and production lines and things of that nature, which is more in the lines of machine learning because that's a vertical skill that it's, would be teaching itself. But there's a lot less wiggle room, so there's a lot less room for error there as well. Because if you're just doing, a very advanced, precise thermostat control for, say, drug reagent tank monitoring, you're doing it could be a complex situation, but it's a vertical task. So that's something that machine learning can do pretty good right now, pretty well, good at. But that allows us to have the technology now to make special edition watches, different colors, different things more easily, and so you're gonna see a lot more flexibility in the watch industry, and we're already seeing it, and like I said, that's what we'll do next week is I'll look for some specific examples, and we'll talk about some of the examples of the growing diversity of opportunity in watch collecting. I'll think of a way to package that into a neat and clean headline. Hey, X201T, how's it going? I myself was born in East Berlin. My life story is very interesting. I enjoy. Oh, well, thank you. I talk too much, so sometimes when people ask me, then boom, they get the download. I spill all the stuff. But yeah, people ask me why do I live in Germany? It's because yeah, I spent so much time here. I wound up getting acclimated and ich kann ziemlich gut Deutsch sprechen. So yeah, so I'm pretty much gonna retire here as far as I know. And my day job, I'm editor at large for Endeavor Business Media, which is electronic design magazine, microwaves and RF, power and motion, machine design, and some others, Industry Week. So I'm their European editor. So I get to work with Americans for Americans every day, but I get to live here. And I do feel that what I do in the industry is valuable because I'm I'm the engineers need news, and I'm a journalist for the engineering community. Talking about new stuff, just like the new protocols that they're coming out with for wireless internet in households, like this new Matter protocol. If you haven't heard about it, look it up. Matter, Matter. It's a new Internet of Things protocol, like a lingua franca, that in the future, if your device is Matter enabled, you'll be able to just connect to everything without all kinds of, opening up 5 browser windows or whatever. We're really in an interesting progression towards some really cool cloud-enabled functionality. If we don't destroy ourselves, the future is going to be sweet. So, uh, let's see, we're at 10 till. So I've rambled on enough, so I don't feel bad if I bail at this stage. Like I said, next week we'll actually talk about some of the things that are happening. I'll mention some of the new up and coming watch companies that I've noted that I think have been enabled by the ability to manufacture more effectively, more cheaply, well, like Erebus, the Just One More Watch guys, new watch company. So, take care, everybody. Love you all. Have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic evening. Take care.